Hey everybody, Les Gray here with the Chronicles of Lesson Mode podcast. I'm so glad that you decided to join us today. So today we're sitting with Jude Wilson. Now Jude Wilson is the Chief Financial Strategist of Centrus Financial Strategies. And Centrus is a financial services firm that focuses on tax and retirement planning. Now Jude has a lot to say, but basically a little background, he comes from a big family of Haitian immigrants, and his love for God drives him to serve people well. So what I want to do is encourage you to listen to the entire conversation, because Jude dropped some nuggets that will help all of us who have either not begun to plan for retirement or in the retirement zone, or who have already retired, maintain the lifestyle that they desire in retirement. So with that, here we go. Hey Jude, how you doing?
Hey Les, man, I'm doing wonderful.
Man, I'm so happy that you came to sit down with us on our podcast, man.
I'm excited about it. Really.
Yeah. So usually we'll start with a question, but before we do that, I wanted to ask you to describe yourself and give me a little bit background on who you are.
Yeah, okay. Man, interesting question. So how I would describe myself is a humble individual, looking to take care of my family, inspire other people to achieve success, help people get to the next level.
Yeah.
You know, I'm always for the underdog.
Okay.
And so that's kind of what inspires me to do what I do and to be a positive influence in people's lives.
All right. So you from Florida or?
Originally born in Chicago.
Okay.
Haitian parents came to this country just like your typical immigrant story, try to find a better life for their kids. My dad never had a plan to stay here. He just wanted to come here, make a little bit of money, send that back home to my mom and my siblings, but wind up staying. And my siblings came, and I was the oops baby because all of my siblings are much older than me, but you know, for the grace of God, I'm here.
All right. Now, how many siblings?
I'm the youngest of 9, believe it or not.
9?
Myself, yeah.
We just had a few guests on here that had 9.
Yeah,
nine
I always
siblings.
say, man, when you Catholic, Caribbean, and have no cable, that leads to a big family.
That's good, man. That's good. So how did you wind up in Florida?
So, you know, my folks just got tired of that Chicago cold weather, you know, and wanted to find someplace warmer. They were getting older and chose Jacksonville because my cousin had actually lived in Jacksonville.
Gotcha.
So told about my dad about it, and then I grew up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
What age were you made it to?
Gosh, I was 9 years old when we moved from Chicago to Jacksonville. Yeah. And it was a little sleepy city, and now it's, you know, it's blown up. Exactly.
Yeah. I got here in 2004 pretty much for the same reasons. Mo and I were living in New Jersey, and I think we had 12 inches one day of snow and then 12 inches the next day. And I think we were like, okay, we out of here.
Yeah.
And
I can relate.
Yeah, man, it was too much. We had no children to assign the shoveling to. So
it was your job.
Yeah. So I was like, we out of here. Thank goodness a job relocated us here. Where'd you go to school? I see your...
Well,
well, that's not college. That's
that's my Florida State. That's my alma mater. But, you know, so I went to school in Jacksonville, went to Catholic school all my life, and then had the opportunity to go to Florida State. And anybody that knows me for more than 5 minutes knows that I'm a big Florida State fan. But what they don't know is it's not just about school pride or the 3 national championships we won. No, I'm not bragging.
Nice plug.
It's really about, I think, where being at Florida State is where I I kind of learned to be a man.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. Yeah.
You know, I was a childish kid, not really with a lot of direction.
Yeah.
And at Florida State, that was the time that I really learned to be a man. And that's really the love that I have for Florida State, because that's when I changed.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Married?
Yeah. I had my first serious relationship at Florida State. That didn't last long, but then I met my wife there at Florida State, and we've been together ever since.
Yeah. I mean, we're in the same age group, and I know y'all got almost the 30 mark.
No, not yet. We're man, I'm going to be embarrassed, but I think
don't get it wrong.
Yeah. Let's say we're not at 30, but we're over 20.
Way to come back on that one. Way to come back. So, I know career-wise, we'll get into the details, but tell me a little bit about your career.
Yeah. So, when I graduated Florida State, well, from childhood, I was always interested in finance. And
Gotcha.
my sister tells a story about when I was in third grade, and I came home so excited. And she was like, "Why are you so excited?" I said, "Have you heard about this thing called compound interest? Oh my God, I need to open a bank account." And I called all the different banks and found which bank paid the highest amount of interest, and they wouldn't let me open an account because I was just a minor. So I went to my sister. I said, "Please open a bank account with me." And she's like, "Oh my God, this kid."
Okay.
So politics and finance were my two interests, because I thought when I was in college that I wanted maybe to become a lawyer or a politician to help. All my life has been about trying to help people. And then I had a mentor tell me, "Son, don't go into politics.
Right.
Everybody that I know that's gone into politics has gone in clean and come out dirty.
Gotcha.
You can do more to help people by being successful and helping them be successful." So
that's good.
I went into business.
All right. So everybody, we try to make sure that we put God first here. So my question is, when did you first fall in love with Jesus?
Interesting enough, so ever since I was a little kid, I've heard people sing "Hey Jude" to me. As soon as they hear my name, they sing "Hey Jude." I didn't know who the Beatles were. I'd never heard the song before.
Yeah.
And so everybody thought that my name came from the Beatles song.
Okay.
And I had to explain to people that Mom was a devout Catholic. Her favorite book in the Bible was Jude. And she named me after St. Jude. And from the time I was a little kid, I always thought I was going to become a priest.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Man, I was an altar boy from the first time I was able to. I think at that time you couldn't become an altar boy till fourth grade, and I became an altar boy in third grade.
Right.
And I'd been an altar boy all the way through high school, and my mom says, I always wanted a doctor, a lawyer, and a priest, and Jude was going to be my priest. Then
that compound interest.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So that had been my story. I loved learning about religion and following that path.
Yeah. Has discipleship, or how have you deepened your relationship with Christ or your faith, and then how does that impact your business, your goal for helping people, things like that?
Yeah, I think it has a big impact because, I've always been interested in helping people.
Yeah.
And that's the path that, as you know, that Jesus took, is to help the least among us.
Yeah.
And so that's why I always love the underdog story. And in my personal life, I've always tried to do whatever I can to help bring people up.
Gotcha. All right, so we got the compound interest foundation, right? So I like that because it's one of those simple things that can have a large impact on our lives financially,
Absolutely.
Legacy, all that different stuff. So after you learned about this, you opened up your checking account eventually?
I opened up that savings account immediately with my sister. Yeah.
So how did it impact your choices in terms of education for high school, college, and beyond? Tell me a little bit about your
Yeah, so I I could not decide at first whether I wanted to my major to be political science or
right,
business.
Right.
I at first chose political science because my big brother had become an attorney, and I thought I would follow in his footsteps.
Mm-hmm.
But then, of course, I met my mentor who persuaded me to go a different direction.
Right.
And as soon as I went into the business school, I knew this was for me.
Right.
I mean, it was just a connection, you know. And I loved learning everything from marketing to accounting to finance, and I wanted to be a financial professional, a financial counselor.
Right.
And I soon learned after I graduated from college and I had my first job that most of the companies, it wasn't about financial planning. It was really about financial sales.
Okay. Yeah.
In fact, I remember my first manager. He came to me one day. He said, "Jude, man, I've been managing young advisors for 20 years. You come in early, you stay late, you're doing all these seminars at churches. But I got to tell you something. If your sales numbers don't increase by next quarter, I'm gonna bleep you know. And so I quickly learned that, man, this is not about educating people. It's at the end of the day, it's about your sales numbers.
Yeah.
And so I told myself, if ever I had a chance, I was gonna open up my own company.
Yeah.
And it was really gonna be about financial planning first, and then solving problems through whatever path that we had, whether it was a product or what have you, but it wasn't going to be about just pushing something.
Right.
Yeah.
So from education, you went undergrad FSU?
Yeah. So I had undergrad FSU. I worked for several years in the finance industry, and then my wife convinced me to get my MBA. At the time, I was working for an independent financial firm. And really, to be very direct with you, my career wasn't going well.
Right.
And I was at a crossroads. Do I continue to work in this career or do I do something else? And I said, well, maybe if I get my MBA, that would give me some other opportunities to go a different direction if this doesn't work out.
We had that in common. You know, I had done my undergrad in accounting, got to taxes, and I was like, I ain't doing this.
Yeah.
I don't want to be no CPA. But finished the degree in accounting and then went to get a master's in information systems.
Yeah.
But my career had stalled as well. And plus I moved down here, which up in New York was a different animal for what I was doing versus down here.
Right.
And so the MBA I thought was going to, and where'd you get your MBA?
At Rollins.
I wasn't sure before we shouted out the alumni connection, you know?
Absolutely.
And so
number one MBA school in Florida. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes. So, but the Rollins MBA did that for me. I know it did it for you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, I think sometimes we look at education as a way just to learn something, but Rollins had helped me think.
Yeah.
It really helped me become more of a problem solver and not just rote learning.
Yeah. I agree totally. So you finished your MBA.
Yep.
And what you were still in finance?
I'm still in finance. Yep.
And then what happened to?
Yeah, so there's so many opportunities that came from that Rollins experience. So I was working for the smaller firm.
Yeah.
Things weren't working out. The owner of the firm and I had a different philosophy of how to treat people and what we needed to do to help people.
Yeah.
And I decided I'm going to go out on my own.
Right. Now, what year is this?
That was 2008. That I was at Rollins, and in 2009 I decided to go out on my own.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I remember that conversation so vividly because the gentleman had told me that the concepts that I had about how to treat people and how to do business, he said, you're going to fail in less than 3 years.
Right.
And I'll still be here. Gotcha. It's been, let's say 2009 to now. Lord has blessed me. We're still growing and have a successful business.
And the name of your firm now?
Centrus Financial Strategies.
Now, it wasn't always Centrus.
Right.
So when you first started, what
yeah,
was it?
So, I was taught that you should brand yourself. That's
okay.
what I was always
That was a big thing back. Brand you.
Exactly. Brand you. Exactly. You hit it. And so we were Wilson Group for many years. I merged with another firm, and the brand just wasn't working well. It was Wilson Group and Mott.
Mm-hmm.
And so we decided to survey our clients, come up with a real brand that would last beyond me.
Mm-hmm.
And those word clouds.
Yeah.
So when we surveyed our clients, we asked them one question: why do you do business with us?
Yeah.
And the number one word that was the biggest in that word cloud was trust.
Okay.
That we trust you.
Yeah.
And so we wanted for that to be part of the name. And when I surveyed our team members, I asked them, what's most important to you as far as serving the client? And all of our team members said, it's putting the client at the center of everything what we do. And so we just decided to combine the two words, putting clients at the center of everything we do, and the trust that we build has created Centrus.
Centrus
Financial Strategies.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We got to put a little Centrus for our businesses in there.
Absolutely.
So I when you first started out at Wilson Group, I was transitioning out of financial service, but I was operations. You remember that conversation?
Yes. Yeah. I remember. I was very vivid.
I had that 24 that I didn't want to go to waste.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the 7 and 63, I was like, Jude, can you park it? But we can't do that.
Right.
And but I remember that. I remember that time, and we lost touch for a few years, right? I mean, just see each other on social media and things. So I've been watching, and you guys growing. Plus, Sam and I were Black MBA doing and all of that stuff. So, but there was a period where I did lose track of you guys, and then I saw you at that award show.
Okay.
Right, you remember that?
Yeah.
And I was like, let me see what this guy's doing now. And you had blown up, and I was like, wow, okay, it's awesome. So what I wanted to ask you, I want to talk about Centrus because I after a few years of working together or collaborating with Sam and stuff, I understand what you're doing and who you're doing it for.
Right.
Now, you're the first person that I heard this term from.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, hit me with it.
Henry's.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
And I certainly don't want us to get into the financial advice side because we both know
absolutely
the outcome of that. But tell me about what Henry stands for and who they are.
Yeah. So, when I started out, I didn't have a big network. So I was working with, people just like me.
Yeah.
And in this business, you've got to kind of grow the business with what we call AUM, assets under management.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is one of the earmarks that shows how successful you are as a business.
Right.
And so as we started to grow, we started to look at the clients that we have the best relationships with, that we do the best planning for.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a few things in common. They were high earners.
Mm-hmm.
They were toward the middle of their career. They had achieved a certain level of success, but they weren't ready to retire yet. They were still on that climb.
You're right.
And then I read an article that talked exactly about the people that I serve, and the term came up: Henry's, high earners, not rich yet.
Okay.
And so these people had, very good cash flow, but they were still on their climb,
right.
And they wanted to get to a place where they could make work optional, and benefit from all the hard work that they've done,
right.
And so that's one of the groups that we serve very well. And then the other group are people that are more nearing the end of their career, and their biggest concern is, I'm about to transition.
Yeah.
How can I turn this nest egg to create income for life?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to have more life than income.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we serve those people very well too.
Okay. And that's interesting, right? I think that from my history, I mean, I'm 60 now, and Mo is 60 as well, and she's about to retire. And I think that
Now she's gonna appreciate that you just told her age on your podcast.
Oh yeah, social media tells all your business anyway, right? So I think we're proud 60s. So we're
because good. You look much younger than 60.
Man,
so
we're trying to be the new 40, the new 30. Right?
I love it.
But the thing is that even though I was in financial services, I did not take the seriousness of retirement planning and wealth building until later.
Yeah.
I mean, my 30s, I was probably having fun,
yeah.
Buying a car and probably, making cash flow, good cash flow, but not accumulating wealth. So versus buying doodads. As you familiar with Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, he has a game, the rat race game.
Very popular.
Yeah, it's very good teaching tool. But he had the phrase of doodads, and doodads was anything you bought that didn't generate cash flow.
Okay.
And so I'm sure I was in that period where like a lot of us who wait to start thinking about it.
Yeah.
So, but you're making six figures, you're making a whole bunch of money. So all that to say, my question is, what do you see as the biggest challenge or barriers for Henrys to start thinking about the things that you provide for them?
That's a great question. So many of the people that I serve are first generation wealthy.
Yeah.
Their parents told them, work hard, get an education, and you'll become successful.
Right.
But their parents did not know the game of money.
All right.
And just kind of like you said with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, money can be thought of a game, and if you don't know the rules, you can't win the game.
Right.
For instance, when I was at FSU, I remember my last management course. Mm-hmm. I tried to get a couple of people together to study, and I created a worksheet that had the times of the days across the top and the times, and I told everybody, mark the times that you can't meet.
Right.
And there's this one gentleman who only marked the class that we were in.
Yeah.
All the other time slots were open.
Right.
And I said to him, maybe you didn't understand what I was trying to get at. And I asked, is this the only time that you're busy? Is this class? He said, yeah. I said, you don't work? You don't, you're not involved in anything? You don't have any other classes? He said, no, I pretty much hang out at the fraternity and come to this class. I said, well, how do you pay for school and all your expenses? He said, oh, my granddad set up a trust, pretty much before I was born.
Right.
And I said, a trust? What is that?
What is that? Yeah.
And man, Les, my eyes just blew open as he explained this to me, because it was one of the strategies, even in my classes, we hadn't really talked about trust.
That's true.
And so I then went on this mission to learn about the game of money.
Yeah. And
then that turned into more of a mission to teach other people, particularly this first generation affluent that, they're now successful. They took the advice of their mom and dad. They worked hard. They got an education. They started a business, or they climbed the corporate ladder, and they have this great cash flow, but they don't understand how to create wealth, how to protect wealth, how to pass wealth on to their kids and the next generation, and how to make sure that all of the work that they've done creates something greater than them.
Right.
And so I'm very passionate about that.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. So I got to do this a little bit. I got to touch on the compare and contrast of African Americans versus everyone else, right?
Yeah.
And I say that because you can look at every statistic in this country, and we're probably disproportionately affected in one form or another, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So that said, when you think about that whole goal, do you see a difference in the willingness of African Americans to take you up on that versus non-African Americans?
Yeah. So my clientele is very diverse. And what I've seen among particularly these Henrys, these first generation wealthy, that part is very similar. The struggles that they have is very similar.
Right.
And so as far as that's concerned, that there's not much of a difference. But what I do see that is a difference is that the exposure to some of these strategies are probably a little less in our community, African American community. And so when I'm teaching, I can almost see a light bulb come up above people's head.
Yeah.
And in some of my clients who may have come from generational wealth, they're very accustomed to these things.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the difference that I see. I see, some of our counterparts may have had some exposure, and some of us, a majority of us, haven't had any exposure. But the struggles are very similar. For instance, if I've worked hard all my life and I've created this level of affluence, I had this hunger in my belly to get there.
Yeah.
But I wanted to provide my kids a better life, and now my kids don't have that hunger.
Oh, that's so funny. Me and my nephew were having a similar talk about this generation of, so if I think about myself and my sisters, I don't have any kids, but they have kids, and their kids have kids now.
Right.
And the same hunger that was born out of struggle,
right,
for us,
right,
they don't see it. They don't feel that. I don't feel it in them.
Exactly.
Se,
so let me tell you something that you've probably heard, and that probably everybody that's listened to the podcast have heard before. It's very common among African Americans for the parents to say, "You got to work twice as hard to have
half as much."
As much.
Yeah.
And so, whether that's true or not, I'll leave that for somebody else to debate.
Yeah.
But that created a level of work ethic that I see with my clients who are at this level. There's nobody that's going to outwork them.
Yeah.
And that's how they climb that level of success. But that same work ethic isn't there in a majority of their kids.
Right.
One of my clients told me once, if you're a baby boomer and you have more than 2 kids, you got at least one that you kind of worried about.
Yeah.
And so the challenge is for, regardless of race, that first generation wealthy, is how do I balance providing my kids a better life, but also creating a sense of a work ethic and being humble.
Right.
I know some of my clients, young adult children, who have traveled to more countries than I have.
Right.
They've been around the world.
Yeah.
And so how do you create that balance to make them both hungry and humble?
Right. Yeah. My nephews and nieces are growing up in homes versus me, who are growing up in a project or living in a building or a tenement with my mom was a welfare, recipient at some point in her life. It was 5 of us, a whole bunch of other things that created this grind that's, I believe, is in me, but I don't necessarily see in my nieces and nephews and their kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a cost benefit in there somewhere, but who knows? Maybe you got to do certain things in order to create that grind in them, their hard work in them. But so from a marketing standpoint, if that's okay, right?
Yes.
What do you do to try to reach out and get to this Henry class or customers in general, to bringing them in, educate them, make them understand the
so it's really about creating a level of awareness and authority.
Yeah.
There's so many people out there that call themselves financial advisors. The banker calls themselves a financial advisor. The stockbroker calls themselves a financial advisor. And now I'm hearing this term financial coach of people that are not licensed, but they may have some level of education. So for the people who are looking and seeking for information, the internet is so vast now, they're trying to figure out, who can I trust?
Yeah.
And so with that in mind, what we try to do is have avenues either on social media or with regular television where I have an opportunity to speak and to share my knowledge.
Yeah.
And when people hear me speak and they see me share my knowledge, they feel more comfortable that this is somebody that understands who I am, particularly when I talk about the things that most of them are addressing, like the kids that don't have that hunger,
right?
Or the fact that, you know, I've reached this level of success, but I know my runway to making work optional is starting to get smaller.
Yeah.
So I need to really focus.
Yeah.
You know, when I talk about the struggles that they're actually having, they say, "Oh, this guy understands me."
Yeah. Yeah. And we understand, right? I mean,
absolutely.
I remember we were talking about marketing back in the day, and we had conjured up E.F. Hutton, right? E.F. Hutton to us, right? And
now you're showing both of our ages.
Man, I got all this gray hair, man. There's no hiding it. But I remember that marketing back in the day and how effective it was. I mean, 30 some odd years later, it still leaves an imprint.
Yeah.
So we know that marketing is powerful. But I'm going to segue.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I do think that, you know, what you're doing from a, you know, this foundation of helping people and God and all that, and manifesting that through your business is awesome. And I advise anybody who's interested to give you a shot, listen to what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. I'm passionate about that. But, you know, one other thing that I didn't touch on that I'm really passionate about is small business owners.
Okay.
You know, my dad, you know, again, was an immigrant to this country.
Yeah.
Worked really hard in many different jobs, but then, you know, decided I want to be a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
And he had owned several businesses, and I'd seen the struggle.
Yeah.
You know, most small businesses fail.
Oh man.
You know, so
I think the number is still 50% or more after 5 years.
Yeah.
It was always that number that
it's always seemed to be around that mean.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so my heart goes out to small business owners because I've seen how my dad and most of my siblings are business owners.
Yeah.
So the next level of my career, I mean, now I still have clients who are business owners and I advise them, but the next level of my career, I really want to work, not necessarily in a for-profit way, but to help business owners because they make typically the same mistakes over again, regardless of industry.
Yeah.
You know, they have a desire to be successful. They have a skill that they're passionate about, whether it's cooking or marketing or photography.
Yeah.
But they don't know the principles of being a business owner and going from that idea in my head to how do I make it, how do I put processes in place to actually get from here to there.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm doing the photography thing, but the executive thought partner brand still exists.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't market it. And I'll probably talk about that at some point, but no, real quick. This guy, one of my guy I trust, CPA, Chuck Akaji, says, I don't want my photographer to be my strategist. So somewhere along the line, I took it to heart, but I still do the business consulting. And to your point, you know, business owners make a lot of the same mistakes. One of the ones that I really am sensitive about is building personal wealth off of your business.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of I deal with a lot of nonprofits, and some of the nonprofit owners and creators they don't always understand that you don't own this thing. Right. You don't, at the very foundation of nonprofits, you don't own it. You can't treat it like a checkbook. You can't get So how do you build personal wealth off of these things? Mm-hmm. And my advice is like, look, here's what I know from my layman's term and my history, but a financial advisor, a tax professional, all those different things are a team that you need around you to help you understand that, you know, while you're doing good, you also need to do well.
Absolutely.
Right?
I love that.
You also need to do well. And these are the kind of people that's going to help you to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to segue.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. So creativity. I believe that everybody has a creative outlet.
Okay.
What's yours?
Oh, wow. You know, I'm trying to develop that really and be more well-balanced because the business can consume you.
Yeah.
And
are you working from home?
Well, so I have an office in Bradenton, Florida.
Yep.
And I have an office here in Orlando.
Yeah.
And so right after or during the pandemic, we learned how to like most people, learn to work virtually.
Yeah.
So I balance my time between working at home, working at the physical office in Bradenton, working at the physical office in Orlando. And it's a balancing act.
Consuming,
Yeah. So as far as creativity, I spend most of my free time either working out or spending time with my family.
Yeah.
Being the youngest of 9, I stopped counting at 35 nieces and nephews. I'm well over that. And now I'm getting into grand nieces and nephews.
Is that a category in Guinness or what?
Yeah, right? And so that, I just get a lot of energy from spending time around, those nieces and nephews. And my siblings appreciate that because not all the times do kids want to share their problems with their parents.
Yeah.
And so the cool uncle comes in,
Yeah, I got you. All right. So work-life balance consists, I know you're an avid football watcher.
Oh man. Yeah.
So tell me, that's your obsession, weekend obsession. Tell me how does that weekend obsession play out?
So I created the 11 commandments of college football.
Okay.
And I posted it on every social media outlet that I'm on because I'm such a rabid fan of Florida State football.
Yeah.
So I Saturday morning I get up early. I usually work out. Then I turn on ESPN. And I'm listening to all of the other teams and how they're doing versus my team, and hoping one team loses so my team can get up in the rankings.
Okay.
And my brother, I have 4 older brothers. My brother right above me, he went to University of Florida, and so we are extremely close. He's my best friend, my mentor. But when it comes to college football, oh no, we go at it.
Gotcha. That's cool. All right. So let me just do a little recap, right? We understand your foundation, which is in God and doing well and doing good for others. Your business is the Centrus Financial Services.
Yes.
I'm going. It's okay to drop the link in there.
Absolutely.
This
Please
ain't
do.
violating no federal laws or anything
we're
like
good.
that. We ain't got to go to compliance and nothing like that. Cool. Family, football, right? And future entrepeur consulting sort of.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But non-profit side or
no, I think the profit side is, speaking of profit, there's this show called The Profit.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I love that show. That dude, he's all right with me.
That's the model that I'd like to do, something similar to that.
Mm-hmm. So keep going.
Okay, I'd love to do something similar to that, to find small businesses that have a wonderful idea or something that they're doing that they're passionate about, but for whatever reason they're struggling, and I'd love to come in there and do some consulting and help them.
Right. Okay.
I'm the underdog guy, man.
Yeah. Well, listen, Jude, man, I appreciate you coming to sit with me, man. This is an awesome conversation. I do want to follow up and maybe focus on Centrus a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I really think that's an interesting space to be in for you, and what you're trying to do is awesome.
Man, I'm just so grateful to have an opportunity to talk to you. And if we do have a chance to talk again, I'd love to focus a little bit on the small business owners and their typical journey.
Okay.
Their hero journey is what I call it.
Okay. That works.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, my brother.
Thank you, brother.
All right. Talk to you.
Pleasure.
Yeah.